we have our guys, our smaller, our first original developers of these projects. We lovingly call them the two guys in a truck. They're usually the guys that are knocking on the doors, and they're the ones that I hold a lot of stock in these projects because they're the ones that start the dream. They're the ones that see that wire, and they're not looking at the land particularly yet, only for the virtue of where it's located, right? But they're the ones that start that dream of the project. They are the ones that originate the leases. And those clients will come to us either prior to getting the site control, meaning purchase contract, lease, LOI. They will come to us sometimes and say, hey, I want to pull a deed. Now, these are the clients that we've tried to educate that it's super important because more times than not, they knock on the door and introduce themselves. And the person at the door says, hi, my name is Will Smith. And they have this conversation. And sometimes what happens is that site control gets originated, gets executed, and then they hand me the signed contract before they've done any diligence, like even pulling a title. They've taken the landowner's word for it. They've looked at the county's GIS and decided that Will Smith is the guy's name. And then I get a title quote for them. We send the search out. This is the variable too, is that an uneducated or uninformed developer has in the past just order title, and they'll go by just the normal standards of what title is. So they'll call a title company and say, hey, we need a title. They're going by their checkbox, and title will say, yeah, great, title. And they'll only do a search for a 30-year or a minimally required search back. But that is not enough for financing. That is not enough for insurability for the solar development. So there's been times that my clients, those early stage developers, will come to me and say, here's my lease and here's my title commitment. Can you tell me what's wrong? A, you're not in the right. The lease is under Will Smith and the guy's name is William John Smith III. So you're out of site control because his name is not correct. But B, the search is not far enough back. That this is not an acceptable enough search. So we are to our group, we're trying very hard to change that checklist that has been circulated in days of yore that everybody continues to go by. And sometimes there's a lot of times that in my vertical of land diligence, the cart has been put in front of the horse. Like, guys, we need to do the deed pull first. Then we're going to know who we're going into the lease with. We're going to ask questions like, do you have debt on this property? Are you going to go into default if you enter site control with me because your lender doesn't allow you to go into anything that secures the property? Those questions, excuse me, were not being asked because there was this gold rush of renewable energy, and it was about getting that site control under contract. And the minute that checkbox was done, the developer can then go and get in line and apply for that utility connection, that PPA, even though they're not in site control with the right person. They don't have some complexities. And so then it's kind of like clean up on aisle 5 the minute that the title comes in, that we're saying you're out of site control. You need an amended and restated lease. We've got to do this. We've got to, get an MOL recorded. So we're trying to help the early stage developers be better developers, help them have a monetary value of vetting the project a little better by, when they sell these projects, those early stage developers sometimes just sell the lease and say, I've tied up this land. It's monetarily worth more money when it's with the right landowner, when that buyer's not going to have to amend and restate something, when an MOL has already been recorded and you're just purchasing the correct membership interest. So we're trying to educate those landowner or those developers that are doing early stage. Then we continue to, I call it, ride the solar coaster, that we're trying to connect ourselves with these projects because of our experience from origination to operation, that the buyers of those projects we try to also contract with. They see that 2R Group has been working on the title. There's 25 things that still need to be mitigated, and we help them continue that to the point that we're contracted with the developer that ends up taking it to notice to proceed, or NTP. We help them. I work with the surveyors and the engineers to help design the site and adhere to the title complexities, and help the lenders and the project owners obtain their title policies for those projects as it goes through milestone. And then Rebecca's standing there with her big catcher's mitt that most of these projects are sold to one or more of the clients that we work for from an asset management perspective. So these are projects that once they get under operation, they're sold pretty heavily. It's a pooled commodity that these projects are sold quite often, especially in the first couple of years of operation. And they end up at our camp where we're actually the asset manager. So we have a lot of intel of that project. In a 3 to 5 year period, we've watched that project go from it being 2 leases, and the 2 guys in the truck brought the project to us, to it going through these phases of milestones and developers till it was built and now it's in operation.